District 22, please put your heads together for a warm Kansas City welcome for Aaron Beverly.
District 22, that reception just now was completely underwhelming. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know who I am? I am Aaron Beverly. I am the 2019 World Champion of Public Speaking. When you hear my name, I want you to go crazy. I want you to get loud. I want you to go, oh my goodness, Aaron Beverly! Oh my goodness, he's so handsome. So we're gonna try it again. I'll introduce myself. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2019 World Champion of Public Speaking, Aaron Beverly. Thank you. Oh, that was totally unexpected. All joking aside, when I won the 2019 World Championship of Public Speaking, there were people who would come up to me and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, it's Aaron Beverly. And I would think to myself, yeah, I've always been Aaron Beverly. You see, a lot of people, when they have success, they let it go to their heads because they seem to forget where they came from, and that is something that I will never do. So while I do that in jest, I will never forget where I came from. And that is a story that I'm going to share with you today. I am not a natural public speaker. In fact, I'll take you back 4 years ago. I was sitting at an Italian restaurant with some friends after our Toastmasters club. I was engaging in conversation with my friend George. We were talking about introverts and extroverts. And I said to George, I am the most introverted person that you could ever meet. Now, George, he ponders this. He puts down his drink. He looks me straight in the eye, and he said the one word that I will never forget. Psh. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a new word that I'm going to teach you today. Psh. Spelled P-S-S-H. Psh. Now, how do you pronounce this word? Two parts. You have the P sound. So everybody, if you can just clench your teeth and just go P, 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 P. Now, the second sound is an easy sound. What do you do when people are talking in the movie theater? What do you tell them? There you go. Now, you put those two sounds together. Psh, psh, psh. Congratulations, you have learned a new word. Now, what does this word mean? Well, in the context of our conversation, and with my friend George, that basically means that's some bullshit. But I like to say psh since it's a Toastmasters audience. Now, I know that there is a grammarian somewhere in the room that said, Aaron, psh is not a word. Psh is a sound effect. Do you know what I say to you? Exactly. But going back to my friend George, his logic was that I could not possibly be an introvert because I was a good public speaker. And you have a lot of people that think, Aaron, you can't be an introvert because you're good at public speaking. And then I know some of you were saying, this guy is the 2019 world champion. He is speaking in front of a large audience right now. And then about 5 minutes ago, he made me cheer him as if he were some type of celebrity. And he has the nerve to tell me that he's an introvert? George is right. Psh. But what is an introvert and what is an extrovert? Is there anybody in the room who has read the book Quiet by Susan Cain? Okay, a few people. Susan Cain talks in her book, Quiet, about introverts and extroverts, what they are, the definition of both of them. The best way that you can define it is that an introvert is someone who loses energy from engaging with people. Extroverts, they gain energy from engaging with people. It's a matter of where you lose and gain your energy. And I do lose energy when I am engaging large amounts of people. If I had a choice to speak in front of a large audience or sit on my couch and read a book, which one do you think I'm going to choose? The book and the couch. I'll probably read some Harry Potter. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I've read those books about 10 times, and for some Harry Potter fans, that is actually a very small amount. But I do consider myself what they call a pothead, but the good kind. But this is not my natural arena. So how did I go from being an introvert to becoming the world champion of public speaking? It's because I believe in a concept that I want you to share with your clubs, your friends, your family, everybody. I believe that if you keep speaking, if you keep improving, you will keep moving. My journey in public speaking began when I was about 5 years old, and I was forced to speak in front of a large audience because of a dictator in the family known as Mom. One day, my family were driving to church, and my mom has a brilliant idea. She says, for the first time in his life, my 5-year-old son is going to stand up in front of the entire church congregation and read a passage from the Bible. Now, when she tells me this, I look at my mom and I say, psh. I'm just joking. I did not say that to my mother. That would have been a stupid idea. No. Instead, I looked at my mom, I crossed my arms, and I said, no. That was a stupid idea, too. Growing up in my household, there were a few words that children were not allowed to say to an adult. One of those words was no. My mom was mad. I'm talking Incredible Hulk with a wig. In that moment, I was faced with humanity's two greatest fears. Facing the church congregation, that was the fear of public speaking. Facing an angry mother, that was the fear of death. Since I'm still alive, you know which option I chose. But I remember standing on stage, I remember shaking, and I remember thinking, I hate public speaking. I will never do this again. Fast forward to middle school. I am about to graduate, and graduation means that the top student gets to speak in front of the audience or gets to speak at the graduation ceremony. I thought, wait, that's great, because I'm not the top student. I'm not the valedictorian. In fact, I wasn't the second best student. I wasn't the third best student. I was fourth. I've never been so happy not being in first place. Until my my teacher, Mr. Zane, he has a brilliant idea. He says, for the first time in the history of this school, let's have a graduation speech from the top 4 students. And I'm in the back of the class thinking to myself, psh. The day comes, I get up on stage. Again, I'm afraid, I'm shaking, and I think to myself, I hate public speaking. I will never do this again. 4 years later, in high school, I was not the valedictorian. I was not the 4th best in the class. I wasn't even the best 20th in the class. I thought I was safe. That is until my principal, Mrs. Pelzer, had a brilliant idea. She said, for the first time in the history of this school, let's teach all of the students public speaking. And I'm thinking to myself again, psh. I graduate. I say, okay, I hate public speaking. I will never do this again. Freshman year in college, guess what class I have to take? Public speaking. Have you ever had a person who really couldn't understand that you just weren't interested? That was me in public speaking. I didn't like public speaking. I hated it, but I didn't know why. You would think that all this experience that I had before, that I would be comfortable with public speaking, but yet I still disliked it. I didn't know why until my sophomore year in college. I was a part of a student leadership training, and at the graduation of that program, all the students had a job to do. My job was to give a gift to the keynote speaker and say a few words. I only had to say 3 lines. On behalf of the Student Leadership Training Institute, we would like to thank you for your time today. Please accept this token of appreciation. The day comes, I get up on the stage, I shake the keynote speaker's hand, and I say, on behalf of, I completely went blank. And time just seemed to slow down. All the eyes are looking at me. It was 15 seconds of the most awkward silence that you could ever experience. Meanwhile, I'm still holding this man's hand. He's looking at me as if to say, kid, just say something. It's not that hard. I did. Here. And I sat down. But that is when I realized the fear that I had. I hated public speaking because I had a fear that I would embarrass myself, that I would forget what I wanted to say. When it comes to public speaking, people say that I have a fear of public speaking, but that's not specific enough. You have to be specific in what it is that's limiting you. If you have a fear, what specifically is that fear? So we're going to do a little bit of an activity. I'm going to give you 1 minute to talk amongst your tables. And just 1 minute, what are the reasons why people are afraid or have anxiety about public speaking? Give you 1 minute. You can start now. Go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm interested to know, what are some of the reasons that you came up with? Just shout them out.
Being judged.
Say again?
Being judged.
Being judged.
Risking self-esteem.
Risking self-esteem, yes.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure.
Taking responsibility for what you say.
Taking responsibility for what you say, yes.
I think people are afraid they're going to find out you're not as good as you think you are.
Ooh. What are you trying to say? Couple more.
Wrong.
Say again?
Wrong. Fear of being wrong.
Fear of being wrong, yes.
How about people don't maybe like themselves
stuff, so they don't think that other people think what they have to say is important.
Yes. Good one. Good one. Yes, last one. Stumbling. Oh, yes. I've done that a couple times already. As you can see, you do not die as a result. But this is really crucial, and this is something that I would want you to take away to your various clubs. Whenever you have a member that says, I am afraid of public speaking, tell them to be specific. Because only when you can be specific can you really make a plan to take action. When you say, I'm afraid of public speaking, you make it this huge mountain that's insurmountable. But when you specify it, that mountain then starts to whittle down into a hurdle. And hurdles, they can be jumped over or walked around. Remember to specify the fear, specify the anxiety, but that's only part one. The next part is to take action on that fear. As a result of my stumble, when I was a sophomore in college at that student leadership training program, I decided that I needed to join Toastmasters. And it just so happened that the person who organized that student leadership training program was a former president of Toastmasters International by the name of Dilip Abeysekera. Dilip Abeysekera was the 2005-2006 president of Toastmasters International, and he just so happened to be an adjunct professor at my small college. He told me about Toastmasters, and of course I immediately think, what is that, some type of drinking club? I'm under 21, I don't think I can join at that point. But he told me what it was. He told me that it could help with communication, that it could help with your leadership skills. So I joined Toastmasters for the first time in 2009. But I had that fear. I needed to remember what I was going to say. And as a result, I decided to do something extremely novel, completely new. It's called practice. And I practiced for my icebreaker speech, the first speech in the Toastmasters program. I practiced for at least 20 hours straight. Seriously. And for those of you who know the time limit of a icebreaker speech, it is 4 to 6 minutes. Yes, I spent 20 hours practicing for a 4-minute speech. But it was good. I did not fumble once. I did not forget what I wanted to say. In fact, I did not have any ums, no ahs. Afterwards, the Toastmaster of the day, he got up and he said, there is a future world champion of public speaking. And at that time, I remember thinking, what's a world champion of public speaking? But again, you specify the fear, you take action on that fear. And because of that, that is how I got up, I spoke, I improved, and I moved forward. Now, over time, I have developed a process that does not require me to practice for 20 hours straight. Now, if I could come out of the speech just a little bit, I'm going to share those tips with you, my process for creating my speeches. Now, the first step in my process is KYA. Anybody want to take a guess of what that means? Know your audience. KYA. This is the big rule. You must know who you are speaking to. Know how they like to hear their information. Know what humor that you can use. Know what humor you cannot use. Know what words won't confuse them. You really want to know your audience because you can have a great or horrible speech before you even say a word by how well you know your audience. Number 2, another acronym, DTOKS. Now, this is one I made up, so I don't expect you to know it. But detox, this is my do, think, or know summary. What do I want my audience to do, think, or know by the time I am done speaking? What do I want my audience to do, think, or know by the time I am done speaking? Now, the key to this summary is that it has to be done in 10 words or less. If you can't do it in 10 words or less, then it could be that your topic is too complicated. And if it's too complicated for you, I guarantee you that it will be too complicated for your audience. Now, number 3. This one is something that a lot of people don't like to do, but I will write out my entire speech verbatim. I will write out the entire speech. And for those of you who don't like to write, technology is a beautiful thing. And you now can have your speech transcribed. I will literally go to an app on my phone, press the transcribe button, and I will talk to my phone and it will write it out for me. So for those of you who don't like to write, that's an option that you have. But I will write out my entire speech verbatim. Number 4, once I have it written, I will record myself, audio record myself, reading that entire script. Now, step number 5. Listen to the recording. I know people who say, oh yeah, I record myself all the time. Well, how many times do you listen to it? A lot of people don't like this step, and it's because they don't like the way they sound. By show of hands, who likes the sound of their voice? There's not a, okay, one hand, okay, there we go, 2, 3, okay, that's great, that's great. For those of you who did not raise your hand, we're going to do a little activity. Everyone, please take out your cell phones. Now, find your voice recorder. And don't worry, if you can't find your voice recorder, that's fine. You can use your video recorder and just take the audio. Now, once you've found your voice recorder, I'm going to give you, let's give you 30 seconds to talk into your phone. Just talk about your day, talk about how awesome you are. 30 seconds. When I say go, go. All right. Stop your recordings. Now, we're going to practice the other part. Everybody, on your phone, turn the volume all the way up. Come on, turn the volume all the way up. Then, oh, somebody's already going for it. Yeah, awesome. Press play now. Oh yeah, here's some laughter. I see some cringing. Okay, you can stop. Oh, you went for your phones real fast. Oh yes, thank you. Now, again, oh, somebody doesn't want to stop listening to their voice. They're like, oh wait, I sound better than I thought. For those of you, again, who don't like the sound of your voice, please stand up. Oh, there weren't that many people that like the sound of their voice. Everybody stand up. Come on, everybody, if you're willing, if and able, I should say, stand up. Take your index finger, point it to your chest. Repeat after me. This is my voice. This is my recording. This is how I sound. Deal with it. You may have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a scientific reason why we don't like the sound of our voice. It has everything to do with what is called conduction, air conduction and bone conduction. Basically, when we talk, all of that sound goes through our bones up into our ear, and lower frequencies reach our ear better there. Now, when we're talking in the air, it reaches out and it reaches our ear differently. So when you hear yourself on a recording, you're hearing it through air conduction. So it's not that you sound bad, it's that you sound different. The voice that you hear on that phone is the voice that I hear when you talk to me. So do not be afraid of how you sound. Do not hate the way you sound. It is not bad. It is just different from the way you normally hear yourself talk. Now, once I have listened to my recording, I will then go to step number 6. I will edit based on what I hear. I will basically become my best evaluator. I will listen for any grammatical errors. I will listen for any areas of opportunity to take a line and enhance it, whether that's putting in a word, taking out a word. I will do this process over and over again, where I will edit the speech, then I will record myself reading it again, then I will listen to the recording again, edit. I will repeat that cycle over and over until I am comfortable enough to take it to step number 7, which is tape in front of a live studio audience. Now, this requires you to video record yourself if you have that capacity. When you video record yourself, then obviously the next step would be to listen to it, watch it. You would not only be able to hear what you're saying, you'll be able to see what you are doing on stage. You can see if you have any distracting movements. You can see if you are expressing the right way for the right parts of your speech. For instance, you could say, "I am so happy today." That really doesn't work. But if you watch that, you say, okay, I need to have a smile on my face when I say that I'm happy today. You can do that when you watch your video recording. But the other key part to having your speeches taped is that you can listen to the audience feedback, the live audience feedback. You can hear when they laugh. You can hear when they react. And that is when you know that the material in your speech is working or not. Your audience will determine if your content is good or not through their reactions and through their laughter. Now, after step number 7, we go to number 8. Number 8 is apply feedback with caution. Apply feedback with caution. And why do I say apply feedback with caution? Because a lot of people will give you feedback. In Toastmasters, this is how we run our meetings. They are built on providing feedback to people. Everyone can give you feedback on how your speech made them feel and the opinions that they generated from your speech, but they cannot tell you, everyone cannot tell you how to improve. So what I do, I apply what I call feedback filters. My feedback filters are, number 1, time. Allow time to pass once you have your feedback. I'll be honest with you, I don't like feedback. I work very hard on my speeches, and how dare you not tell me that my speech is perfect in every single way. But what I'll do, I'll allow time to pass to allow the emotion to subside, so then I can look at it objectively. Another feedback filter that I apply, I have more, but for the sake of time, I'm only going to give you 2. But the other one that I have is what I call the circle of counsel. So this is a small group of people who I trust will give me unbiased feedback. These are people who will tell me if I am being authentic on stage or not. These are people who are close to me, who know how I speak. I will give them the same authority that I give myself when I am creating my speeches. I like to say that when it comes to my speeches, I am the judge, jury, and if need be, executioner. Everyone else is just a lawyer trying to present their case. But for my circle of counsel, I will give them the same level of authority as me. Now, number 9 is very, very, very important. Set a cutoff date for editing. You want to set a cutoff date for editing because you don't want to keep making changes up until the last moment, because that can cost you. I remember going to the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2016. There was one person who got on stage and he decided he was going to put in a callback, something that he had heard before. He was going to use it for his own speech, and he did it. And it was great. It worked out fabulously. He got a great, about 10-second reaction, 10 seconds of laughter. He was disqualified because he went over by 10 seconds. When you make those changes at the last minute, they can be good, but it is a double-edged sword. So I always say that I will cut off editing. There are no more changes that are going to be made to my speech about 2 days before the presentation. And when I am in the midst of those 2 days before the presentation, I will then listen to the recordings that I've had. I will watch the videos that I have, and I will internalize my presentation. And that is my tips for improvement and the process that I have for creating speeches. Now, I wish that I had had this process when I first started competing in the International Speech Contest. I started competing in 2012. And I had a speech that was just going to rock the world. It was going to be the greatest of all time. I was going to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. I was going to get all the way to the end. So you can imagine my surprise when I placed second in the area. Afterwards, somebody comes up to me and he says, "Aaron, do you want to know why you lost?" Now, mind you, after you've competed in a speech contest, that is the last thing that you want to hear. But I maintained my composure. I said, "Sure. It's because you were all sizzle and no steak. You didn't give us anything of substance. You need help." And I thought about that. I decided to go back to the person who introduced me to Toastmasters. I went back to Dilip Abesekera, the person who was the former president, who also happened to be a former second place winner in the International Speech Contest. And he became my first and only mentor. Now, I'm getting into the subject of mentorship because a lot of you as leaders have the opportunity to mentor your club members. And I believe that there are 5 qualities to a good mentor. Now, you can take down these qualities, and I would hope that you apply them when you are assigning mentors or becoming a mentor yourself. The first quality of a good mentor: they have been where you want to go. They have been where you want to go. As I said before, Dilip Abesekera, he was on the world stage. He was the second place winner in 1992. He knew what it took to get there. Number 2, and this one is crucial, they fit your style. At least in the beginning, you want to find a mentor that fits your style. You don't want to have a mentor that is the complete opposite of you. If I was competing in the World Championship back in 2012, I would not try to find a mentor who was like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, for those of you who don't know, he's a super energetic, like, rah, rah, rah. Total excitement for about an hour. I don't have that much energy. So me getting a mentor like that wouldn't work for me. I had to find somebody who fit my style. Dilip was a storyteller, and he was a calm, collected guy. That was the perfect mentor that I needed at that time. Number 3, we talked about this before. A quality mentor will give you unbiased feedback. I remember writing my first drafts of my speeches. Dilip told me, it has potential. It may get to an area. There's no way that gets past division. Unbiased feedback. Number 4, they will not tell you that their way is the only way. They will not tell you that their way is the only way. And if you ever have a mentor who says, you must do it this way, you must do it exactly the way that I say it because that is the only way that it is done, I want you to introduce them to a new word that you just learned today, and that word is what? Exactly. I always say that there is no such thing as the way. There is only a way. It is up to you to find your way. Your mentor should stress that. And they should also stress one other thing. Number 5, this is what I call the golden rule. And I'll tell you what the golden rule is in a little bit. But first, I just want to share with you that through Dilip's tutelage, through his mentorship, I went from not getting out of the second round in the area contest to getting to the semifinals the next year. I used his lessons year after year after year, but there was something missing. And what was missing was the golden rule. It's something that a mentor can stress, but they can't really teach it. It's up to you to find it. I remember when I was competing in 2013. I got to the semifinals, but I didn't place in the semifinals. Looking back at my speeches, I sounded like Dilip. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to find other sources. So I looked at professional speakers. I looked at the Tony Robbins, and I tried to emulate them in 2014. And it was great. I wrote a new speech. It was so good. It was so clever. It had characters. It had vocal variety. It was about a boy who had 3 dreams, and there was a big bad wolf. And the big bad wolf, he had a big bad voice like this. And he would huff, he would puff, and he would blow the house down. It was good. But it wasn't me. Afterwards, a former world champion, Randy Harvey, he came up to me and said, Aaron, you have a problem. You're a good speaker. That's a problem? He said, you can take something that shouldn't get that far very far. I said, okay. Because in your speech, we're not connecting to you. We hear the voice, we hear the cleverness, but we don't hear you. I took that feedback and I thought, I'm going to go use it, and it's going to win. It's going to get me to the World Championship of Public Speaking. I went to the semifinals in 2014, and I will tell you right now that I have never looked at that speech again. Because I knew that Randy Harvey was right. But 2014 was a critical moment for me because I was able to see the 2014 world champion. His name is Dhananjaya Hidetarachi. And when he was on stage, he gave a speech, and he talked about himself. He talked about his personal life. And as he was on stage, you could just see that there were no charades, no facades. It was just him speaking directly to me. He was himself on stage. And that was the golden rule. You have to be yourself. So in 2014, after that conference, after that contest that year, I went and I created a new speech. That speech was a speech that got me to the World Championship in 2016. It's called One Rule. And if you don't mind, I'd like to perform that for you today. Would that be okay? I always wondered what would happen if people said no. Like, could I perform that for you? No. Oh, okay, bye. If you could be anyone in the world, who would you be? Someone rich? Someone famous? Maybe you say, though, I don't want to be anyone except myself. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I proudly choose to be myself. But that was not always the case. When I was 15, I had very low self-confidence, low self-esteem. It caused me to commit the biggest personal crime that you can commit, trying to be like someone else, especially when it came to the greatest fear of mine, girls. But this was not any girl. This was Gabrielle Preston. She was funny, she was smart, she was beautiful. Just thinking about her would make me go. One day after school, I feel strangely confident. I say to myself, I'm going to ask her out on a date. Have you ever wished for something really hard? I'm walking towards her. I'm thinking in my head, please say yes, please say yes, please say yes. I look at her, she looks at me. My heart is beating like a jackhammer. But somehow, I managed to say, would you like to go to a concert with me this Saturday? Unfortunately, she said the one word I feared more than anything. She said yes. I said, really? Have you ever wished for something really hard, but when you actually got it, you realized you bit off more than you could chew? I did not expect her to say yes. In my mind, Gabrielle was an angel, and I was just a nerd who liked cartoons. I was ashamed of that. I needed help. So I did what any smart, independent young man would do. I ran home to my mom. There was my mom, sitting on the sofa, in the living room, peacefully. I burst through the front door. I said, Mom, Gabrielle said yes. My mom said, really? I said, Mom, what do I do now? My mom looked at me. She smiled. She said, Aaron, all you have to do is follow one rule. Just be yourself, because you are an amazing person. Be proud of who you are. She reminded me of that old phrase, mothers know everything. But then I heard this voice in my head. It said, that phrase is the biggest lie. Just be yourself. Aaron, is she serious? Being your nerdy self on that date means talking about two topics. Pokemon, Batman, that's it. You can't do that, that will not work. You need another opinion. So I went to the internet. There I found a video of a man. He was suave, smooth. For the sake of this story, we will call him Bob. The title of Bob's video, How to Impress Women. Now, whose advice should I take? Mom, who knows me and loves me, or the random man on the internet? That's right, Bob. Because Bob was cool, he was confident. I thought if I could be like him, then I could be proud of myself. So that weekend, I followed Bob's tips to impress Gabrielle. Tip number 1, Bob said, be a macho man. Because ladies love a macho man. That's not how Bob really sounded. I just like doing that for fun. I meet Gabrielle outside of the concert hall. She says, Aaron, how are you? I respond, I'm fine, how are you? That's my macho voice. Tip number 2, Bob said, make her jealous by talking about other girls. I said, that makes so much sense. Gabrielle and I, we get to our seats. She says, Aaron, this was a great idea. I said, I know. I take all my dates here. I thought, man, I'm doing great. Tip number 3, Bob said, be quiet. Don't talk about yourself too much. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I said absolutely nothing to her for a whole hour. Afterwards, guess what Gabrielle did? She said, psh, and she left. 2 weeks later, I found out she's dating another guy who I knew for a fact was a bigger nerd than I was. My heart was broken. But at that moment, I knew that there was only one person that I could blame for that. Bob. His advice, his fault. And I was going to write him a scathing comment on his video to let him know. I get to my computer, I'm mad, I'm ready to type. Then I see another comment. It said, if you follow this man's advice, you're an idiot. Because all you have to do is follow one rule. Just be yourself. We live in a day and age where we're told that you have to be like someone else. You have to look a certain way. You have to do this exactly this way. But what we forget sometimes is to look in the mirror and say to ourselves, no, I'm not going to conform. I'm happy just the way I am. Today, folks, I will shout it from the rooftops. My name is Aaron, I am a nerd, and I love Batman. I choose to be myself. And I'm proud of that choice. How about you? Maybe there's someone who told you that you have to be like someone else. I stress to you to follow the one rule from the wisest lady that I know. Just be yourself, because you are an amazing person. Be proud of who you are. And I've used that golden rule ever since. I used it in 2016 to get to the World Championship. I used it in 2017 and 2018. And I kept remembering it even in 2019 when I became the world champion of public speaking. When you see me on stage, that should be the same Aaron Beverly that you see off the stage. My cycle of growth, because I kept speaking, I kept improving and I kept moving. But it's not even going to stop there. I plan to keep speaking. I plan to keep improving. I plan to keep on moving forward. And I stress to you to go to your teams, go to your clubs, and stress this same principle. District 22, until I see you later again, take care.